2 Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's, offers fully covered loading and unloading area with individual pin-coded gate and door access. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Business! Woohoo! Yep, good morning, Guam, and thanks for starting your day the KUAM way. Starting lineup here. My name's Chris, and my guest this morning, Dr. Michael Bavacqua. In studio to talk about, this is a cool thing, and it's happening tonight. So, Puenge Menago Noche Buena. This is UOG's CHamoru Christmas celebration. Un Puenge Conta, Buenelas, and Moss. So you're gonna have singing and donuts. You had me at donuts.
we always have way too much buñuelos.
Right.
And so, and so, tonight at UOG in the HSS Atrium from 6 to 8 p.m., it's the UOG CHamoru Studies, CHamoru Language Program annual Christmas celebration. And so all of the different classes, the CHamoru language and the culture, the history classes, they all do something different. Some of them are singing, some of them are doing performances. There's a novena, a mini novena, not the full novena.
Ooh, a mini novena. I wonder what my grandma would think of that. Rest her soul. Mini novena, huh?
Times 4 speed.
Right. So let's talk about how did you, how many years have you been doing this?
Actually, a while. I can't even remember, but it's,
wow.
But at least maybe 10 years, actually maybe even more. And so this is really a chance for us to kind of teach the kids tomorrow Christmas songs. They make a Belen, so there's going to be a Belen competition.
Wow.
For those of you that don't know what a Belen is, if you type it on your phone in a chat, it'll try to make it bile.
Right.
The autocorrect will change it to bile, so be careful about that. Don't say, I need the moss for the bile.
Yeah, so that's something we're talking a little bit before about how a lot of our Christmas traditions kind of stem from Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of like there's that intermingling,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I know that ancient Chamorros probably didn't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah,
right.
Probably not.
But what we are celebrating is kind of a mix of influences and, the Spanish. And so, there's no doubt, celebrating Christmas, even if it is in a Catholic way, is Chamorro the way we do it, right?
Okay. Yeah. It's definitely something that's been adapted. And one thing that I like about Puengan Managov Noche Buena, because I'm not personally Catholic,
right.
I didn't grow up Catholic, is it's just you can learn part of the history and the culture from it. Is that, and it's always interesting because the way we think about Christmas now with like Santa Claus and Christmas trees, that's not the way that Chamorro celebrated Christmas.
Unfortunately.
That's why, before the war, you got Buñuelos Dogu and Enoja. That's probably all you got. You weren't gonna, and that's why it's interesting because once sort of the post-war Americanization starts, that's when more Chamorros start to celebrate Christmas as they're trying to kind of be good Americans.
Right,
they're trying to show they're assimilated. But before the war, some Chamorro families were like, "How is the Christmas?
What is this Christmas?
It's Christmas, and they're telling me I gotta buy my kids toys.
Yeah.
What? I don't gotta do that."
So personally growing up, it wasn't until probably around like 8 or 9 years old that my grandparents, because we were raised up by in my grandparents' house, that we had a tree and stuff. And I remember, if we were lucky enough to catch something Christmassy on TV, it was like, wow, what is this? What is this Christmas?
I know.
What are these presents?
I know. What is this? They all sit around and they spend all morning opening presents.
Because for me, Christmas was never about Santa Claus. It was always about praying.
No.
Praying, singing, praying, concentrating a whole year's worth of praying into a couple weeks in December.
No, and that's why my students are always a little bit weirded out because whenever we get to this part of the semester and we're getting ready for Puengan Managov Noche Buena, we're practicing singing and stuff like that, I'm always reminding them, well, you know that according to this part of the history, you're not really supposed to have a Christmas tree in your house because for much of Christian history, Christmas trees were not okay. They were considered to be a pagan symbol. And then Santa Claus, and my students are always kind of like, oh my goodness.
I roll. Here goes Dr. Mike with his deep
Prof-
alternative history again.
And I'm like, you don't even know who Santa Claus is.
So I think it's neat that you might not have been raised Catholic, right? But if you look at it, it's not just Christmas on Guam. I mean, if you listen to Christmas music, it's kind of that. I mean, it is the one time a year where it's okay to just like shove your religion on everybody because there's just so many Christmas songs that are traditional that, you know, sometimes we just kind of forget that they're about like Jesus. You know what I mean? I don't, but I know a lot of people.
Well, thank goodness because of President Trump, we can say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Thank goodness it was a cold 8 years under
Right.
Obama
Ooh,
where we
boy,
were not
yeah,
allowed
yeah.
to say Merry Christmas, where the thought police.
I think
were
we're
all
kind of
over us.
going a little off here.
No, but so one thing that I like about it, because it's true, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, you know, so we didn't sing CHamoru Christmas songs, we sang
Right.
a lot of religious Christmas songs.
Is
too.
that I mean, what's the deal with Christmas and Seventh-day Adventist? Is it the same
It's
thing?
it's a type of evangelical. And so you can have trees and presents and stuff, but for some families it's much more religious, less material. But so when I first started teaching CHamoru at UOG, I would be kind of weird because the other CHamoru teachers would be like, oh, let's sing this Nobena song and we'll have the students sing this. And I would be like, man, I don't know any of these songs.
Right.
And then they would be like, Miguel, what songs do you sing in your family? And I'd be like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Jingle Bells, Jungle Bells.
Jungle Bells.
Jungle Bells,
Yep.
not Jingle Bells, Jungle Bells. But, and so at first I'd be kind of resistant.
Right.
I would tell my students, okay, you guys, we're just going to sing the chorus. And I'm going to learn the verses because I'm not really into this, you know, into this Puengan Managov thing. It's very Catholic, I don't know, you know.
Right. So at what point, man, did you kind of like look at it more from a perspective of like, this isn't necessarily Catholic, it's kind of CHamoru?
Well, so...
Or, you know, I mean, it's both, right?
Oh yeah. Well, so one thing that happened is that I started to actually read the CHamoru Christmas songs, and I found that some really deep, beautiful CHamoru you can find in those songs. So, for example, the Surahanus, a lot of them now want to be called Zoomti, and there was a time when people were like, "Timagahid na CHamoru," that's a made-up CHamoru word. That's not a real CHamoru word.
But you
And-
find it in like the old songs.
You find it so for those of you that sing Fanmaktu Manhingi every year, the last verse of Fanmaktu Manhingi says, Malongwe Tautau, mankind is ill, Tiam Tidzonesta, already beyond curing, Lo Maktu Sidzulu Sidzoamti, but God will come who is a great healer.
Right.
And so when you look at the songs, it's not just about the sort of the religion itself. You can appreciate sort of the beauty in the songs, the way they use CHamoru language, the way people that sing CHamoru Christmas songs every year, you'll be using some words that people don't really use anymore.
Right, yeah, definitely. And, you know, another thing I think is interesting is when you look at the English versions of these songs, a lot of times the CHamoru translation is just, and I don't know if it's because they can't find the exact English word, but it's just deeper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's very true. That's why when you sing like Fanmaktu Manhingi, oh come let us adore him, but then in CHamoru, Tangingi ta adora. And
That's
so
not a literal translation.
Yeah, because if you said it in English, it would be, let's sniff and let's adore. Let's sniff and let's adore.
Do they sniff babies in the States?
Yeah,
That's
that
that
would
sniff
be,
kiss, the
that would be
sniff.
interpreted another way as evidence in an impending drug
Right,
trial.
they'd be like,
perhaps.
oh, yep.
But no, and so I always liked the way that they brought in some of the culture. And so I started to get more into it because I could teach my students, we would translate some of the songs. And some of them would be like, oh, I love this song. And then we would go through it and it'd be like, that's what this song says. And I'd be like, yeah, see, you should, it's nice to sing it, but it's good to understand what
Feel
it
it.
means too.
Yeah. And then so how do you, there's the singing and the Nobena, but then there's also this tradition that's really dying off and it's only practiced by a few, maybe not a few, but it's definitely not as prevalent as it used to be, which is the Belen, you know? I mean, and it starts when you go out and you gather the luma, and I was so blessed. And I just ran into Auntie Nati Cavo yesterday. So a couple years ago, I was able to do a segment with her on my show where we went out to Runao and we harvested lumut for the Belen, and she kind of like let me apprentice. Like, that's a strong word because I can't I can't do the stuff myself, but she just let me kind of like follow her and check it out and see everything from getting the lumut, you know, laying out the Belen, and she does like a major, I mean, this is like, there's architecture plans and everything, and then preparing the the yam for the donuts, and, you know what I mean? So it's like a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
just like any one thing,
Yeah.
right? So
And it's beautiful. So if for those of you out there, if you don't practice those traditions, you may want to start practicing those.
yeah, because you get
traditions.
stuff. I mean, even if you're not Catholic and you come to this, you're gonna get Manila's Doggu. You're gonna get, you know what I mean?
And it's not only about sort of the finished product, because that's what we sometimes focus on. Like, because then you could just buy it. You could buy a Belen and you could just unpack it and put it there, right? But it's also about sharing between generations, right? So for
Yeah.
so many people that looked for the lumut, you usually did it with an older relative, and that's when you have contact between generations. You tell stories and so on, and so
Yeah.
and then when you put it together, and so it's not really just about what it is itself. It's also that it creates time for you to talk to your family
Right.
and share those stories.
And they're kind of like intergenerational conversation and
yes.
learning. So my grandmother died when I was pretty young, and so we didn't get a lot of the training that like my mom and her siblings did. So meeting Auntie Natty, especially later in my life, it really kind of, when you're young, you do stuff. You can't wait to grow up, so you don't have to do it anymore. Like, oh, well, I'm an adult now, and it's kind of cool to kind of approach it from being a grown man and looking at it with like grown-up eyes.
Oh yes, that's what I always tell my students. And of course they don't give a shit now necessarily. But that's what I tell my kids too.
Right.
When I'm they're like, why are you telling me
Why
this? Why do we need to do
why?
this? It's like, un día siempre ponagradeci este.
One day.
Pogo.
One day
Un
might
día
today.
siempre. But wait, so the fun thing is the
How do you say millennials in Chamorro?
Millennial.
I say mampuzitos, like little chicklings. But so with the Belen, each of the language classes has to make a Belen. And some years we give them a lot of freedom. So like last year, I liked it that one of my classes made a Protehi Lategsan Belen, where they had a nativity element, but they also had Lategsan, beautiful lush green, full of life on one side,
Right.
and Lategsan after build up with like
Bulldoze.
bombs, bulldoze,
Bulldoze
and smoke and
laddies.
fire and bullets on the other side. It was a very controversial.
Shouldn't be laughing
Belen.
about that, but
But I love it. See, and that's why I always tell my students, explore the Belen idea. So some
Right.
of my students, for example, they'll make the nativity scene, but then they'll put local animals in, or they'll make the nativity scene, but then they'll have ancient Chamorro figures
Right.
instead of sort of Mary and Joseph.
right. And so what we would do growing up is we would like put little GI Joes or like Star Wars figures in there, and then kind of see how long it would take. The older relatives are like sitting there praying, like, wait a minute, is that Chewbacca over there? Like, what the? He wasn't one of the wise men.
Oh man,
Depends who you ask.
Yeah.
I had one student who was like a 50-something, 60-something-year-old Chamorro guy, and he, for the Belen for that class, he brought in some figures. He said he had special Belen figures. And then he showed one of them, and it was like a guy, like with his face wrapped up in like Arab garb. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then he said, these are the shepherds. And so I took them, and I was like, these don't look like shepherds. And then he said, this is Joseph, and it was Indiana Jones. He had Indiana Jones action figures
Indiana Joseph.
from his kids. I was like,
So the guy that was the dude with the swords, right?
yeah, that was one of the
Yeah.
shepherds.
You know how much those are worth now?
Yeah. Hey, so let's do a wrap here. That's going on tonight. What do people need to bring? And let's go back real quick because every year you guys do this, you raise money for a cause,
yes.
right?
And so, as part of the Belen competition, every Belen will have a jar, taronenai, in front of it. And so the Belen you like the most, go ahead and put money in the jar. And whichever Belen has the most money at the end of it wins. And then the professor has to kind of treat the class somehow.
Wow.
But all of the money together will go to ACT, Autism Nonprofit on Guam.
Nice. Autism Community Together, right? That's the one.
And so there'll be a representative will be there tonight to collect the money after we count it all and so on. Because last year we raised between $300 and $400 for Typhoon U2 sort of relief, and we're happy again to sort of give back to the community.
Good. That's good.
But if you come tonight 6 to 8, UOG HSS Atrium, you don't have to bring anything except yourself and your appetite.
Are you sure? Because most time in Guam we say, no, don't bring anything, just bring yourself. And then you show up like, Lana, they didn't even bring anything?
No. For
You
this
really
time,
mean it.
for this time,
For real.
because be ready to take, because we always have way too much peanut mamas, sweets, and bañuelos left over.
And so it is going to be desserty.
It's no
No
rice, no anything like that. But yeah, so there'll be singing, there'll be a fashion show. I don't, but it'll be a nativity, Belen themed
So we're
fashion
gonna see a
show.
Luma bikini.
And then mini novena, you know, a bunch of stuff. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Pinamago.
Are you guys gonna stream it or anything?
I may stream some of it.
Right? Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so again, it's free. It's tonight. They're gonna have Bananas Doggo for days. You know, it's kind of early in the holidays. It's late for some of us, but December 6th, right? So I don't know if you've had any Bananas Doggo yet this year. Now's your chance tonight.
Okay, but for what?
Okay, so that's at the HSS Atrium.
Okay, the middle area in the HSS, Humanities and Social Sciences building.
Right, and so Dr. Mike, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
I'll go mas.
And hey, just a heads up, you know, next Tuesday I'll be back with the executive director of the Commission on Decolonization, Melvin Wampat Bora, to continue discussing decolonization. Check out our shows. That's going to happen Tuesday. Hey, have a great weekend, and be sure to swing by UOG tonight and check out Dr. Mike and really awesome Chamorro language and Chamorro studies programs over at the University of Guam.